Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev, this time with me, QMacro DJ. Good morning. Oh my goodness, there's a massive spider just over there. I've just seen a spider on the wall. There was a moth in here this morning, or something, because I have the door open after my run in the morning to cool down when I'm preparing for this. And now there's a big spider, which, not a big deal. I'm not particularly worried about spiders, but I hope it doesn't just, descend down here on a thread. But anyway, good morning and welcome. Andrew, good evening to you, sir. Bookending this episode. Thank you for the tweet yesterday. That was really nice. I really appreciate the tweets. Thank you very much indeed. Jodelle, nice to see you again. Was it yesterday we saw each other on Marius's Devtoberfest video? And Helmut, moin to Hannover. Good morning, Tim. Good morning. There was a moth. Is that a song? There was a fly. The lady who swallowed a fly. Anyway, I've got my coffee. I've got my Italian biscuit. Administratore biscuit. Javier, good morning. How are you? I'm looking forward to this one. This is part 5 in this diving into messaging series. We're almost at the end of the exploration of the core concepts and the management APIs and the messaging APIs. There's a few little bits and pieces I want to finish off in this particular episode with you. Samuele, good morning. I hope you brought your sharp eyes with you again this morning. I absolutely love the things that people spot in the channel. It's absolutely brilliant. So yes, welcome, Samuele. There's a few things I want to sort of round up and tie off. And then next Friday, probably. Yeah, next part, we're going to dive into looking at using CAP with all the messaging goodness that we've learned. Okay. But before we start, good morning, Shahid. Good morning. Enterprise message, EM with your favorite biscuits. Exactly. These were, somebody else in Manchester, in the lockdown, they said, one thing that helps them through the whole thing is to have this so-called adventure biscuits. So they go to the supermarket and do their normal shopping, and then they go to the biscuit aisle and buy a packet of biscuits that they wouldn't normally buy. And these are a result of me trying out this whole adventure biscuits thing. It's quite good, and I've still got some. It's a huge packet. So yes, favorite biscuits are my favorite people. All the people who come and join the live Hands on SAP Dev sessions. Okay, so let me switch to the main scene with me at the top there. I just want to, of course, update us all on Devtoberfest. We're in week 4, just coming to the end of week 4. So we've had the excellent Marius telling us about Fury development with the App Studio. And next week, well, in fact, by the way, I put this screen up here because Gregor Wolf, thank you, Gregor, on a call yesterday. It was the office hours for Max's CAP sessions yesterday, and Gregor came on, was it yesterday, Wednesday, whenever it was, and said, by the way, the home page of the Devtoberfest is missing a summary of the key dates. So thank you, Gregor. And Tom, I put the issue in, and overnight Tom has resolved it, which is fantastic, as in put some key dates in here. So there are the key dates. If you don't already know, there's the homepage for Devtoberfest. And if we go to the topics page, you will see that current week, SAP Business Application Studio for SAP Fiori Development, quite a mouthful. Less of a mouthful, just as interesting though, we have SAP HANA Multi-Model with our very own Vitali, and of course a couple of, well not of course, but a couple of special guests, Matthias and Marcos from SAP. So that's next week, check it out. Helmut, don't see and hear anything, my problem or details do not arrive. Okay, I have arrived. Maybe on this particular episode, maybe not in life, but I've arrived, and just try refresh Helmut. Okay, welcome Helmut, moin to Helmut. Have a cup of coffee. What is this? I'm drinking, oh yes, it's the Miriam Perez Natural, the one I think I sent you, Andrew. Really nice in an AeroPress this morning. So there we go, so that's that. I think that's really all I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, there's one thing we mentioned last Friday. We had a brief look last Friday at the renewed, come on, what's going on? The renewed service instances page in the SAP Cloud Platform cockpit. Now, this was the page we looked at, which is, you know, a really nice sort of tabular format, and you've got all the different things here. You can say, for example, here in our enterprise messaging thing, you've got a link to the view dashboard, which we all know and love. But the really cool thing, which I failed to share, was if you go to your sub-account level, you have access to, of course, the Cloud Foundry spaces, and then within the spaces, then you can drill down to the apps and the service instances, which we've just seen, right? However, the really nice thing, which for me really clearly underlines the direction that we're going in, we have at the sub-account level a list of service instances as well. And these service instances can belong either to Cloud Foundry or Schema, Kubernetes, or other environments. So this for me is quite an interesting direction to go, you know, a positive direction to go, i.e., you know, let's just think about this from one step back. You know, not specifically Cloud Foundry, not specifically Schema, but just generally, you know, we're dealing with service instances. Quite a nice sort of philosophical thing to think about on a Friday morning. So there you go. I wanted to share that before diving in. Now, let me just share with you what I've been doing yesterday. Actually, I've just been tidying a few things up, and rather than you watch me type everything, you know, I think it was it you, Samuele, or somebody? Oh, Tapio. Good morning. Sorry, I didn't see you there, Tapio. Good morning. Buenos dias. Oh, what's that? What was that one? Hivia Huamenta? What language is that? That's not Finnish, is it? I don't know. No. Don't know. So please tell us what that language is. Exactly, Jodel. There no more sub-account called Cloud Foundry. We'll go back to where we were. It is all about multi-cloud. I mean, if you can go to your Cloud Foundry section here, right? But at the sub-account level, you can already see the services that you have in that sub-account. So here are my 10 services in Cloud Foundry, in my Cloud Foundry organization and space, the dev space. You can see it's actually, you know, there's the Cloud Foundry organization thing, and there's the spaces. If I've got maybe a second space, I'd see the space there. Oh, it's finished. Okay. Wow. That was a good guess on my part, I guess. A lucky guess, rather, not a good guess, a lucky guess. I just looked finish. So good morning. Good morning. So yeah, so that's the thing. That's the thing, Jodel. Yes, definitely. So let's go to our GitHub repo, to our shared GitHub repo, which I'm sure you've all seen, but there's the link as well. Oh, stars, 4 stars. Who starred it? Let's see. Da da da. Oh, excellent. And Rich and Embrune and running code is king. I thought you said running is king there. And Javier, fantastic. So Helmut, I've seen directory beta at the global account level. Are there any insights about that? Yes. So we did actually a hands-on SAP Dev episode before we moved to the SAP Devs channel. I did a hands-on SAP Dev episode on core service API. Let me just click that and press stop straight away. A first look at the core service APIs for SAP Cloud Platform, Helmut. And the core service APIs, if I go to HANA trial, right? If I go to my sort of trial homepage, so have a look at that. And we did something on that episode with directories. If I just scroll along here, maybe I'll see it. I can't really see I'm not going to have you watch. Oh, there we go. Ooh, where was it? There. Where is it? Come on. Basically, I'm not going to find it, am I? No, I'm not going to find it. I can see it there. There, okay. So, there's some directories. Whoa. Stop. So this is in episode 79, and this is a combination of directories and sub-accounts. And basically a directory is like a way of containing multiple sub-accounts that you want to maintain similar properties for example. So have a look at this episode, Helmut. You may have missed it. Yeah, it's an organizational artifact within the whole concept of global accounts and sub-accounts. Really useful, really interesting. Have a look there. And you can create and manipulate directories either with the CLI for SAP Cloud Platform, upon which we've also done an episode, or using these beta APIs for SAP Cloud Platform as well, which is what this particular episode was all about. And there is, if we have a look at that, there we go, Helmut. There is the link to the core service APIs, beta, okay? And one of the sets of APIs, this one, accounts, you will see that you can do directory operations, create, patch, update directories, okay, and put sub-accounts in directories and things like that. So it's quite interesting. Does that help, Helmut? Let me know. Is that what the sort of thing you were looking for? Perfect. Okay, have a look at episode 79. Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. Okay, so where were we? Oh, that's right. I was going to show you a few bits and pieces that I'd updated in our, and I stress our, GitHub repo. I think the main thing is, well, actually, here's a small thing. I added setting the option of error exit. I'm just trying to make my bash scripts a little bit more robust, for example. So on all of the scripts on management, on messaging, and on the service setup, I added this thing at the top. Basically, it means that if any particular command in the flow, in the script, finishes with a non-zero return code, then stop the script. Okay. So for example, if I'm creating an instance of a service and then creating a service key, then, for example, then if the instance creation doesn't work, then there's no point in trying to create a service key, so let's stop, etc. So it's good practice. I've been reading up on good practices for writing more robust bash scripts. So that was that one. But I suppose the most interesting one was, interesting for me, maybe not interesting for you, was I modified the way that we're caching the service key information. I'll show you briefly here, but I'll show it in action when we start using it. So basically, if you remember, where's the terminal here? Here you go. Where are we? We're in, perfect. If we have a look here, we can see that we've got this service key and we're saving the service key for our, we've got a service key called SK1 for our EM dev, enterprise messaging dev. In fact, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Going back to the, where is it? Service instances page. Yeah, so Samuel, so if you're interested, what I learned that from Writing Robust Shell Scripts. Really good blog post by David Pashley. So there, have a check out of that. Pretty cool. So emdev, one key. There is the service key there, SK1, okay? So that's the service key. And what we've been doing for our scripting is sort of saving that rather than getting the service key each time in order to pull out the client ID and the client secret and the authorization server endpoint and also, of course, the API endpoint. We sort of cached them in this file. And it was a very basic caching mechanism that we had, which was basically very basic caching. If there's a file with the instance name and the service key, then we'll use that. Otherwise, we'll get it from the cloud platform, in real time, as it were. So I've improved that slightly by basically saying key data is regenerated from the cloud platform and cached for n minutes. Okay, so this is where I wanted to get to. So cache time, I put that +1 because I was testing, then forgot to change it back. So I changed it back with the next commit every 5 minutes, right? We've got local file sk, instance name, service key name, and then we check in the get when we're this is get service key inside of the local utils. We say basically if the file doesn't exist, if the skmdev sk1.json in our case doesn't exist, or if it's older than 5, if it does exist and it's older than n 5 minutes old, well, 1 here, right? Then we need to recreate it, regenerate it, okay? So I've not been hacking around for the last 5 minutes at least. So we will, when we do this, for example, so this now, we can see that what's created 7:47. The time now, my time is 8:14. So if we say messaging, for example, list webhook subscriptions, there'll be a slightly perceptible longer delay because we're going to the cloud platform to get the service key, and then pulling the information out of that service key to go and get an authorization token, and then making the call. So it's 3 calls altogether. Here we go. There we go. Okay, and there's no webhook subscriptions right now. Now, if I run that again, it's noticeably faster because we have now got a fresh 8.15 date, 8.15 cached version of that file, which is this stuff here, which is where our super important information is. Okay, so in 5 minutes time, because of course, well, not because of course, sorry, because I've changed that to 5. There we go. So that's what that change is there. And there's me putting cache back timeout from 1 to 5. Duh. So there we go. So that's what we've got so far. Let me know in the chat right now if you've had a look at this repo, if you're interested in cloning it and playing around with the scripts, if you've done that already, if you found any interesting things, if you found any issues. I would love to hear from you. Issue, is that my issue? Issue 1? I've done that as well, actually. I need to close that one. Yes, extract details such as instance service key and queues. Yes, I'd hard-coded, deliberately to keep things simple, I'd hard-coded the service instance name and the service key name into the management script and the messaging script, knowing full well that that wasn't dry. So now, where is it? Where was it? Oh, move vars into settings. Yes. So what I did was I moved out of management, the instance name and the service name, out of messaging, same thing, right? And instead, I put them in a file called settings, service, enterprise messaging, plan, dev, instance, emdev, service key, sk1. And then I use those in the service setup, that's that one time to set up the instance and the service key. And I use them in the messaging by sourcing the settings, and I use them in the management by sourcing settings. So I've done that as well. So we can close that. Yes, I'll close that in a minute. So those are the changes, really. So we can start playing around. Now, the first thing I wanted to explore with you, in fact, I'm going to have one of my favorite biscuits. Absolutely right, Shahid. Very good. Very good. Still crunchy. Still very almondy. Almondy. Normandy. Oh, thanks, Andrew. You've had a look. Brilliant. So the first thing we want to have a look at is handshakes. Now, let's go to the documentation, first of all, to orient ourselves. If we have a look at this particular page on the documentation, which is quite a useful page, I'll share that as well. REST APIs for messaging. Okay, so remember, there are 2 API families for messaging. There's the management APIs and the messaging APIs. The management APIs are for what I think as the static things like the queues and the queue subscriptions, i.e. the topics and things like that you usually set up once and leave them or whatever. Then there's the messaging APIs, which is for sending messages, for retrieving messages, for creating webhooks for retrieving messages and so on. That sort of thing. That's the messaging APIs. So in the messaging APIs, down here, right, in the webhook subscriptions section, it talks about something we've not really looked at yet, webhook authentication, which we'll come to in a bit. I want first of all to have a look at handshakes. Okay, when we played around with webhook subscriptions so far, we've always said handshake exempt, handshake status exempt, right? We don't need a handshake. Basically, what this whole handshake idea is that if you're the messaging service and you're told to say, right, okay, messaging service, here's an endpoint I want you to send those messages to, right? The service will give you the opportunity to say, well, let me first of all, just make sure that service, that endpoint, that webhook endpoint is sort of ready to receive stuff and is the right thing. Let's have a bit of a handshake. Are you who I think you are? Are you okay receiving my stuff? Yes, I am. Okay, thank you very much. Here's the stuff, right? So that's what it is. So handshake. When a client creates a subscription, the service makes a handshake before pushing messages to the webhook. Let me just make that a bit bigger. The handshake request is an options call, right? Who knows what an options call is? Put in the chat, who knows what an options call is? With the header Webhook-Request-Origin, the webhook must respond to a handshake request with the header Webhook-Allowed-Origin. It's a bit like a cause thing, isn't it? Right? And the value of this header has to match the value that was sent with the Webhook-Request-Origin header, or asterisk, right? After the handshake for the subscription is completed successfully, the service publishes messages. So basically handshake first and then da-da-da. Or handshake exempt, okay? And what we've been doing in our payload that we've been building, we've been saying here, exempt handshake true, this line here, right? I.e., don't know about handshakes, let's not bother with them. Let's, have all the webhook subscriptions so far exempt from the handshake thing. So we can start sending straight away. So why don't we, in fact, why don't we have a look at what we've got so far? So let's just create another window here in our tmux and say, well, in fact, what have we got here? Management list queues. What queues have we got? I've not changed any queues from last week. So yeah, we've got Q1, Q2 and hands-on. No messages in any of them. Have we got any queue subscriptions, by the way? Not that this matters at all. Oh, okay, for the hands-on queue. Oh, we've got, okay, the hands-on queue is subscribed to 3 topics, T1, T2, and T3. We're not really using topics today. We've done topics already. Andrew, just seeing what you said, those biscuits sound good. They are good, and they are quite crunchy. The microphone. So, what do we want to do? We want to create a webhook subscription. Now, I've got in here, as we know, our webhook little node thing. Let's just remind ourselves of what it looks like. We've done all this before, so there's no point in looking through in detail here. So I'll open up another window so we can sort of stare at that while we start this thing off. npm start. Okay. Oh, what? What? Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. npm start. Let's start a fresh screen. There we go. And also, I think I'll use Samuele's suggestion again. And we'll use ngrok because it's dead easy, right? ngrok http, and this time I'll put the right port, 8080. I don't know why it changes colour like that, but anyway. Right, so we want, that is the endpoint, okay? Somewhere in the documentation, here in fact, the webhook has to be secured by HTTPS for subscriptions. Remember, right at the start of this series, I tried to put in the HTTP version of the ngrok endpoint, and it wouldn't have it. It's because HTTPS is required. Okay, you can do HTTPS without authentication. We're not coming to authentication yet, or you can use basic or OAuth. But here we go. So there we go. So now what we can do is we can say, have we got any list webhook subscriptions? We haven't got any at all. So why don't we create one? So just remind ourselves of what it's going to say. We're going to create a webhook subscription, the name, the queue we want to attach it to, the quality of service. I've changed that back to 0, by the way, because, let's just forget quality of service now. We've done quality of service. And the endpoint is that, and we're going to exempt it from handshake. Yes, the text on the orange is hard to read. We don't really need to read any of that at all. It's hard for me to read as well, actually. In fact, let's just let's sort of pretend it's not there by moving it down like that. Okay. We've got the ngrok HTTPS URL endpoint, so we're good. But I agree with you, Andrew. It's quite hard to read. So messaging. Create webhook subscription. What do we need? We need the name, the queue, and the endpoint. So by the way, what I'm using here, the messaging thing, that's the script that's in our GitHub repo. You can use that as well. I would love for anybody to use that and let me know how it works for them. A good way to explore the messaging APIs. So we'll say messaging create webhook subscription. Let's give it a name W1. Why not? Q, hands-on. So we'll connect the webhook subscription to the hands-on queue, which currently has no messages in it. And we will say the endpoint, of course, is that. Okay, that's the endpoint, which is, of course, our little node server. Okay, and we get back a little confirmation. So now if we list them, there it is. Now we can see that the handshake status is exempt. Okay, so we're all good to go. Exempt handshake 2, that's the sort of the configuration. Exempt handshake true. By the way, I've been looking into this on-premise thing and the Cloud Connector location ID. I got so far, but then it wasn't working, and some wonderful person internally helped me out and basically worked out that the dev plan that I'm using and that we all have access to at the moment doesn't support yet on-premise Cloud Connector powered endpoints. Okay, the default plan does, so if you've got a proper default plan you can do that, but at the moment in trial we can't do that. But I'll show you, how, if you've got time, I'll show you how far I got. So that means now that if we say if we say messaging publish message to queue hands on A, we can see that the A was received up here. Okay, so there's no handshake required. So far so good, and that's what we've seen already, right? Let's just do that again. B, bong, B. There we go. You'll see that, by the way. Where is it? There. B. B. There we go. Let's not start a conversation about trial versus dev plan. Yes, exactly. We've got what we've got at the moment. And that is definitely enough for us to explore and learn together, right? So what we want to do now is we'll remove that messaging delete webhook subscription W1. Okay, so it's gone. Let's just make sure it's gone. Yep, it's gone. And now what we'll do is we'll say exempt handshake true. Well, we can either say false or remove it. Okay, let's assume for now that the default will be false. It's not exempt. By the way, if you're wondering, let us go to, I've put a bookmark here. Let us go to the messaging administration, the sort of the GUI version of what we're doing at the command line in the APIs thing. There's the webhook subscriptions. And this is where we say exempt handshake, right? Okay, so we'll leave that there for now. So now what we'll do is we'll create that thing again. Let's just do that up there. Where is it? Create web. There we go. Not that one. Oh, that was when I was trying the on-premise thing, the MacBook Pro. But anyway, create web subscription W2. Let's call it W2 not exempt. No, let's just call it W2. W2 hands on. That's the queue, and then the same endpoint, which is of course. Why am I doing it there? I get rid of that one. Don't need that one, do I? No. Okay. Which is the same as where we are here. Okay. Let's do that. Okay, so we get the same sort of response. Yes, thank you very much. There's the webhook subscription. In fact, let's have a look at it here. It should be there, right? W2, right? Paused. Paused. Why is it paused? And by the way, as well, another thing that I did was I added the final support to the messaging API for the 3 other things you could do with the messaging APIs, which were triggering a handshake request, pausing the webhook subscription, and resuming the webhook. So these are just other APIs as well, which I've done here. It's very, very similar. So that's all in there as well. Okay, so we'll be maybe using those. If we have a look at it, we can see the subscription status is paused. Why is it paused? Because the handshake request, the handshake is pending. The handshake status is requested. Now, let's just have a look at that from a list perspective here. We can see handshake status requested. Exactly the same information, right? It's almost like, you know, carbon copy of what we see in the UI, right? So what the heck is going on? If we have a look here, let's have a look at the there. We can't really see that well. There we go. There. Now, what happened? In fact, why don't we do this so we can see it all at once? Let us kill that. Right? I don't know why ngrok is giving me orange, but anyway, let's kill that ngrok. Start one up again. Right? Start listening, and now let's have a look at it. Now we've got that as the endpoint. Now here, when we get a request, the request in ngrok is shown here, right? And we also see the request up here, right? Or maybe we don't. So now let's go back to here. Oh, not there. And delete webhook subscription, what do we call it? W2, and create it again, right? I'm going to create it again. Oh, we need a new ngrok endpoint, which is that one. Now, what I want us to look at is the thing down here. There it is. Options / okay, options / and we get the same status, i.e. the handshake status has been requested. So now, what does that mean? That means that because we didn't exempt this webhook subscription from a handshake, the enterprise messaging service is correctly saying, I want a handshake with this endpoint. Okay. And remember in the documentation, it said the handshake request is an options call to the webhook. Oh, okay, with the HTTP header Webhook-Request-Origin. But, and this is the interesting thing, in our little webhook Node.js thing, we're only handling get and post. We're not handling options. So let's just add one of these. Let's put it up here for now. App.options on anything, and we'll send. Well, that'll do actually. We'll send nothing. We'll send nothing. Okay. Or let's, in fact, status 200.end, like that. We'll do it like we did the post there, right? So now, at least when we npm start, at least when we get a request in, we should now see what comes through. Oh, question mark. Samueli, is that a question mark on what we're doing, or a question mark to what Andrew says, or what? Let us know. Let us know what you mean. So now we can either delete and recreate the webhook subscription, or actually, because of the function I added, trigger handshake request, we can trigger a handshake request again. Okay, if we have a look at the documentation. Let's just open up this thing here, messaging API, there we go, trigger, there we go, trigger a handshake request to subscriptions webhook endpoint. Okay, so if the handshake didn't work or it's pending, let's trigger another one, right? So let's try that. So messaging, oh, in fact, why don't we do this? Let's have a thing over here and say, messaging, yeah, that'll do. Okay, so messaging watch, let's just do it every 5 seconds. Well, actually no, let's do it every 2 seconds. There we go. And now if we say trigger handshake request, what do we need for that one? We need the name of the webhook subscription, of course, W2. So now, if we trigger that, we should now see, there we go. There we go. We see that it generated an options call, okay? And just as the documentation says here, Webhook-Allowed-Origin, sorry, Webhook-Request-Origin we get that, okay? So basically this is the enterprise messaging service trying the handshake out, okay? So what's the status here? We've still got requested, pause as handshake is still pending, right? Now, response code needs to be 204, not 200, Antonio. For what? For the handshake response or for what? Now the response code, did I see 2XX? That's quality of service, 200. I'm not sure. What are you referring to, Antonio? Let's have a look. Let us know what you're referring to, and we can check it. So, so the handshake request is still pending. What we have to do, as the documentation says here, is, where is it? Here, we have to respond Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Yes, it would all be tedious without the bash scripts. In the enterprise messaging documentation, which bit are you referring to? Samuele, I can just see the question mark on the previous thing, and then I can see you saying, "Can't you see my messages?" So that's the last thing we saw from you, Antonio, was sorry, Samuele, is the question mark. Just a question mark. What, did you put something in and maybe it's been sort of filtered out or something, or maybe it's a URL, or I don't know. So try again, Samuele. So try again. So let's carry on. What we need to do is respond, right? The webhook must respond to a handshake request with the allowed origin, and the value of this header must match the value of the request, or just asterisk. So why don't we do that? So let's have a look. What we need to do is not just send a 200. Oh, I see what you, okay. Not, is that what you're referring to, Antonio, the 200? If we put a 204, let's try that, okay? Let's try 204, right? Let's just do that again and start that up. npm start. I suspect that when we trigger a handshake request again, okay, we send 204 back, but it's still pending because we haven't sent in the response the specific header that it's looking for. That header called Webhook-Allowed-Origin. So let's do that now. We can say here, right head. Is it right head? It is, isn't it? Let's put a 200 for now. Let's just try the 200, and then say webhook. What is it called? Webhook-Allowed-Origin. By the way, this is the way to write headers in Express. I used to do Express quite a bit actually, so this just came out of my fingers. I guess I hope that's right. Allowed origin. So we send a map of the thing, and we'll just say asterisk, right? Yeah, okay, let's have that. And yeah, send. There. Let's try that again. Let's move that down a bit. There we go. Okay, now, are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Now let's, what we're going to, in fact, what we should do really is I'll trigger another request. We want this on the same page, don't we? Yes, okay, so let's kill that here, kill that there, go across to here. And instead what we'll do is we'll add something here so we can see that there. And cd webhook npm start. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Actually, we might not be able to. Let's do that over here. Yeah, cd webhook npm start. There we go. Okay, so now if we trigger a request, we should be able to see the options request coming in here, and maybe this will change. Let's find out. Completed. Completed. Handshake status completed. Why does it still say paused though? So maybe, yes. Okay, so maybe, oh, here we go. Can't you see my messages? Wow, YouTube is filtering some of my messages. That's interesting. Plain text and no URLs. Oh, I'm intrigued to know what you were typing now. Maybe it's filtering that because it might think that people are trying to, hack something, because obviously localhost, etc. So localhost 4040. But of course, now you've had such a pain from YouTube's filtering that I'm not sure the context of that. So let me know what you mean by 127.0.0.1.40.40. But there is our handshake. And it's done, it's completed. However, right, we can see here that the subscription status is paused. If we look, what does that mean? That means the handshake status is completed, but the subscription status is paused, as in paused, not resumed. And of course it's paused because the handshake sort of didn't work. So it's like, I'm pausing until the handshake is working now. So I'm assuming, it sort of makes sense, right? That we have to explicitly resume it now we've done the handshake. Okay, if the handshake request works straight away, I wonder, will it go into a paused state? I don't think so. So let's now use. Let's open up a new one to have a look at the messaging. Let's now use the resume webhook subscription, right? Which is one of the functions I added, right? To resume. Well, so Andrew, yes, so now we've shaken hands, can't we now continue? Yes, we can, but I think we have to explicitly continue. That's what I'm thinking, right? So if we go back here and now say messaging resume webhook subscription, and what we need is the name of the subscription, which is W2. So let's just keep an eye on this monitor here on the right hand side at the subscription status, just here, these lines here, to see what happens. Nothing. I'm still in sort of scroll mode in Tmux. There we go, it's active. That was a bit of a disappointment. I'd paused the update of the thing. Now it's active. Okay, so what we'll do is, what should we do? 8:43. We'll delete. Yes, we will delete the webhook subscription. Yes, let's do that. Let's do the Andrew thing. What triggered a thought in my mind from what Andrew said. And let's delete this webhook subscription. Right, so let's go over here and delete webhook W2. There we go. Well, that should disappear. Now, if we add it again, is it 751? Yes, it is. If we add it again, now we are properly responding to a handshake. Let's have a look to see if the handshake gets done and the subscription status remains in an active state, as in an unpaused, resumed state. Yes, we saw that there. Down here, we saw the all the stuff coming through here. So the handshake was done successfully, and the state is now, keep doing that, sorry. The state is now active automatically. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense to you, Andrew? we could do that again. We could do that again, but this time, let's delete it again. Gone. And also, let's just sort of put some spaces in there so we can see the new things coming. If we, in fact, if we get rid of this, if we just say res dot status 200 end, right, and sort of not do a proper handshake response again, right? npm start again. We'll create a webhook. Oh, we'll send some message to the queue. Yes. Publish message. Publish messaging. Publish message to queue. Hands on. 1, 2, 3. Management. Get queue. Hands on. We can see that that queue's now got 3 messages in the count. When we attach create web subscription to that queue, we get down here the attempt at doing a handshake, but the handshake response from the webhook is not the proper response because we've deliberately clobbered it. So now that the subscription status is paused because we're still waiting for a handshake, which means also, theoretically, that if we look at the queue again, the messages are still there. Of course, they're waiting. So now, well, actually, why don't we try this? Let's try this. Messaging, resume webhook subscription W2. What's it do? Handshake not successful. How cool is that? Right? So now let's fix the webhook to respond properly in the options request for the handshake. There. And restart it. Oops. npm. Oops. Reset. npm start. Now, if we let's try and resume that. See what happens. Resume webhook subscription. Will it try the handshake? Oh, actually no. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's do a trigger handshake request for W2. Completed. So that's what we saw before. The handshake status is now completed, but it's still paused because the handshake hadn't worked initially. So now we can say resume. Bang, bang, bang. And hopefully those messages, oh, the messages are still there. Why are the messages still there? Oh, no, there they are. Hold on. There we go. They're gone. I was just too early. Last successful delivery was just then, right? And there are the messages, 1, 2, 3. Does that all make sense? Let me know in the chat. Let me know explicitly in the chat. Does it make sense? No. Does it make sense? Yes, please, please, please. Okay. So yeah, it seems to be okay. So now, okay, Samuel, I was trying to say with 127.0.0.1.40.40, maybe you'll see the options call from enterprise messaging. Oh, I see. Okay. Yes. Okay, but we've gone past that now, which is great. Because here is the stuff for the options. Now we could more specifically than just saying, you know, Webhook-Allowed-Origin anything, right? A bit like a course. Yeah, anything. I don't care. Anybody have me. We could have said Webhook-Request-Origin and then Webhook-Allowed-Origin, that thing there, right? But let's just say anything. Okay. So, just like Polite Society, shake hands, pause, and then start communication. Exactly. Antonio, thanks for the confirmation. It's clear. Good. Good, good, good. Now, let's move on for the final 10 minutes to authentication, because there's not actually that much to play with authentication. But let's have a look at the documentation, right? Webhook authentication. This is the thing here. The webhook has to be secured by HTTPS. Done. Webhooks with basic authentication, OAuth 2 authentication, and no authentication are supported. We've been doing throughout, of course, we've been doing HTTPS. And throughout, we've been using no authentication, as in this is the authentication that needs to, excuse me, you can say when messaging sends me, the webhook, a message, I want it to authenticate. So I know that it is who it's saying it is, okay? So it's like a bit of belt and braces. And you can do that with OAuth 2. We're not going to go there today because I don't particularly want to write an OAuth 2 responder in the Webhook Node.js thing. We'll do basic authentication and see what goes on, right? Thanks, Samueli. Thanks for the confirmation. So now let's have a look, because we saw this, right? We saw this in the create subscription. This is what we've been doing, right? And we've now gone from exempt handshake true to do a handshake, and we've got rid of this. We could have said false, I suppose, right? And here's a couple of examples of authentication with basic authentication, i.e. authenticate the webhook calls to the webhook with basic authentication, require basic authentication, that means basically. Stop saying basic, DJ. And we send some security information. Don't forget this, of course, is going to be sent in HTTPS in the payload, so nobody's going to see it, right? It's not in the headers or anything, or in the URL. And you can also do OAuth. Okay, so you need to send, you know, the auth server endpoint, the client ID, the client secret, its client credentials, grant type in OAuth 2.0 that is supported, right? So let's ignore this one and have a look at this one. So what we'll do is we'll add this thing, securitySchema, to our payload thing. So let's get rid of that. Let's keep that running. Do we want to keep that running? Yes, we want to keep that running. npm start. Right, we'll keep that running. And, oh, here we go. We'll go over here. Here we go. Here's our payload. So this is where we want to add securitySchema, right? Is that right? Yep. securitySchema. Oh, isn't it so much nicer writing YAML than JSON, right? securitySchema, type basic auth, okay. Type, how do you say that? Kind of funny camel case. Basic auth. User, was it user or username? User. Let's use these values. User 1 and welcome 123. Why not? User 1. Pass. Is it pass or password? Password. Welcome 123. I always like if it, user and pass or username and password, so they're both the same length. Just feels nicer, right? Why use different lengths? Anyway. So that's that, securitySchema. The handshake thing is not exempt. Exempt handshake false. Let's add that. That's the default, but let's add it in now anyway, just to try it out, right? Exempt. We've had true before to exempt the handshake, but let's say false explicitly, just so, you know, because. Right, so now let's get rid of that webhook. Let's send some messages. For I in sequence 10, do I done, bong, 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 etc. Right? So just put some messages in the queue. Get queue hands on. So we got 10 messages, right? I just love the 10 messages, and the queue size in bytes is 11 because, of course, the 10th message is 1010, so it's another byte. Anyway, so we've got some messages in the queue. We haven't got a web subscription yet, so now let's create one. We'll use this. You use the same ngrok thing, the orange thing. So let's say create webhook subscription, exactly the same thing, but this time the payload is going to include this securitySchema. What is it called? This, yeah, securitySchema. So let's see what happens. Ooh. Okay, well, that's cool. The handshake completed successfully, and this time, and this is like the difference, Andrew, right? This time there was still a handshake, but because the handshake was successful immediately, you know, on creation, as it were, then there was no point, I guess, logically, you could argue there's no point in pausing the subscription, right? So it just went ahead and sent the messages. Now, Can we see anything different? No. And that's because, I guess, what this means is, oh yeah, here we go. The webhook has to be secured. Webhooks with basic authentication. So I'm assuming that now we've specified this security schema, every single message that is sent to the endpoint, to the webhook endpoint, I don't know why, in my mind, the webhook is over there, like where this light is, in the corner. Anyway. Every time the service instance sends a message to the webhook endpoint, it also authenticates that call so that the recipient, as in the webhook, can say, well, let me have a look at the authentication details. Yes, okay, fine, we'll accept that. Thank you very much. So if you can imagine combining that with quality of service 1, you can build up a really secure and robust messaging receipt flow thing, right? So let's see if we can see this user 1 and welcome coming through. This is basic authentication, of course, nice and simple. So if we have a look at, that orange is really annoying me. In fact, let's zoom this in to nothing. There we go. Right. When the messaging service sends something, it's going to send it a post. So, oh, here we go. Request path, body, and headers. There we go. Let's just do, yeah, that'll do. Let's have a look at the headers coming in on each of the messages that get thrown to the endpoint. There we go. Right. Let's kill that and start that again. And let's move that a little bit more. Right. Now, are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? What's going on? Oh, we saw them there. They all came through, didn't they? Yes, so let's do that again. Let's do that again. So there we go. Bang, bang, bang. I can see it already. I can see it already. I'm looking at the camera, which is the microphone. What's going on? I'm so excited. I thought that was the microphone. No, that is the microphone. Anyway, ignore me. Check this out. Here's the headers, right, of each of the messages that come in to get sent, and we get a basic authentication header, authorization basic, bang, bang, bang. Now, who knows how that is encoded? I know, it's base 64, isn't it? I think there's a base 64 encode and decode. Base 64 decode. Okay, so if we say echo that base 64 decode, there we go. Look, it's there. User 1 and welcome 123. That's how, in basic authentication, the user ID and password are encoded. Not encrypted, encoded. Ah, there we go. Yes, and in fact, echo, yes, as Antonio says, user 1, we can go backwards, welcome 123, base 64. The base 64 default is to encode it. We get that, DXN, which is the same thing. I suppose we could do this, right? Base 64D, base 64, we get the same thing. Yeah, cool. What a stupid thing to do. So there we go. We can see now authentication on each of the messages that get sent. Now, I've missed some chat here, sorry. Jodel, user password, same feeling I get on cat models having this convention ID. Yes. Property name Y, sorry, that's all right. Nothing is out of topic in hands-on SAP Dev. And so, can you try opening 127.0.0.1 port 4040? Opening as in telnetting to it? I've got nothing listening on that at the moment. What exactly do you mean, Samueli? You mean telnet? Have I got telnet here? No, I haven't got telnet. What? I'm not sure what you mean. Opening 127.0.0. Opening it where? If I go to 127.0.0.1 4040. Ah, there. Okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Brilliant. Samueli. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, this is a much better way of, this is like a much better version of that orange mess that was on my terminal. Yes, fantastic. This is what ngrok exposes. See, I've never really used this, you see. So thank you, Samueli. Fantastic. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Yes, so these are all the requests. Post request, headers. There it is. There it is. Fantastic. You got there in the end. Got around the filters from YouTube. And in fact, it's 9 o'clock. We've done the hour already. So we've covered handshakes. We've covered authentication. So that's it. So next week, we're going to dive into CAP and messaging. And specifically with CAP version 4, CDS version 4. It's going to be super exciting. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great Friday. Have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you so much for being a brilliant, interactive set of folks here on the chat. Makes it so much more pleasant for me and everybody, especially me. So yeah, I'm going to say goodbye and see you next week.